So what's required for a change of custody? So change of custody would mean there's already a custody order in place, there's already a situation, there's a routine being followed, and you're trying to make a change to that. So what is normally going to be looked at when a court in Michigan is deciding to change custody? So, some examples of this would be the other parent is never around. Maybe they travel for work all the time and the custody arrangement was set up before they had that job, or their job has become more demanding. They're just never around. They're absent from the home. That's one possibility. Or the other parent has started using drugs or alcohol and is abusing things, and it's just not appropriate what's going on at home with the food in the house, the care for the child, getting them to school. School absences is a good indicator. If a child's not getting to school regularly, that can be an indicator that there's real problems with the other parent. It could be a reason for proper cause or change of circumstances. Michigan law looks at these two categories, what they call either proper cause or change of circumstances, for why they would be able to change custody in the first place. So in other words, it's not just as simple as you file a motion for change of custody because you want more time with your kids, or the child is telling you they want to live with you or spend more time with you, or it's been a couple years and they're older now. Those are not reasons under Michigan law to change custody. They might feel like reasons, and of course you want to spend more time with your child. That's certainly valid, but legally are you going to be able to do that? So you got to remember, we're not talking about an agreement. We're talking about doing this by force. This is making the other parent change the schedule because you want to change the schedule. Now you might have legitimate reasons, but the court still takes it pretty seriously that they're going to force somebody to do a different schedule with their kids than what they have right now. So you can probably imagine that if you back this up a ways, if you go back to when you first started this proceeding, whether it was a child custody case because you were never married, paternity, child support type of case, or whether it was a divorce case, however it was that you got to this point where you have a custody agreement, you want to make sure at that time what you're going to do with a custody agreement, a custody arrangement, and parenting time, because that's when the door is open to just look at all possibilities and make decisions and reach an agreement. Trying to change it later is very difficult. You have to have, it's a very high standard. You got to have clear and convincing evidence to change, for a reason to change custody. There's proper cause or change of circumstances if there's what's called an established custodial environment, which is the legal term for there's a routine in place. If there's been a routine that you've been following with these kids for a good amount of time, you've had this schedule for years, a court is very unlikely to change it unless there's real serious stuff going on, except if it's by agreement. So assuming there's no agreements here, then it's a pretty tall order. It's not just going to be, my 10-year-old says they want to come live with me. That's not even something to consider. There has to be a lot more going on. Unfortunately, there has to be some pretty bad things going on for a court to change things in a significant way. Basically you're saying the other parent is not able to care for the child and is unfit, and we're going to take the child from them and change the schedule and take them away completely, or make a major change to the schedule. So small changes are certainly possible, especially if it's been, it's been 5 years, 8 years since you had the schedule in place and you're trying to change a couple nights or do something different in the summer or whatever. Those sorts of things certainly could be possible. It's still the same legal standard, sort of. It's the same thing that the court is required to look at, but what's required, the burden of proof is much lower. So meaning it's not as difficult to make a change if you're just trying to change a parenting time, change a few nights, a few days. But if you're really doing a change of custody, like a total redo of the schedule, and you want the child with you full time now, or you want to go to half the time with them because right now all you have is maybe every other weekend, those things are change of custody. It's a difficult thing to do. You got to get proper advice about it early on and figure out if this is really possible, if there's a strategy here where you can do it. Because the court's not just going to rush into it and start looking at just because one parent is talking about wanting to change custody. There's certainly a lot to that, so it can be kind of a big deal. So you want to be putting the right schedule in place at the first place if you can. Don't get talked into, we hear this a lot, don't get talked into, well, we'll do this schedule for a while, we can always modify it later. Well, you can if the court order says that it's to be reviewed later, but if you don't put anything in there about how you're going to review it later, modify it later, it won't happen. It's just not happening is what you got to assume. And the other parent, if they're not going to cooperate with you and do an agreement and make a change for you, you really can't count on pushing it in the court system and getting some sort of change. The court's likely to just tell you that there's nothing different. They're a couple years older. So what? or they weren't in school, now they are in school. Everybody knew that was going to happen. That's foreseeable. So the court can be pretty tough about it. It can feel like a pretty, tough, cold world trying to deal with courts when it comes to custody and parenting time and schedules and children. So you want to get the right schedule in place in the first place if you can. If that didn't happen, whatever was going on at the time, you just didn't get a good schedule, it certainly can be modified, but you got to have the right things in place. You got to look at, is there established custodial environment in place? Is there a routine in place? If so, what is that routine? Why do you think it's not good for the child? Why do you want things different? The answer isn't because I want more time or because my kid said so. Those are not reasons. So, but a family law attorney, divorce attorney can help you explore what will be some valid reasons and what you can do. Maybe you can change the schedule a bit, and it's not going to be a total change of custody, and maybe that's good enough. Maybe you need to start getting a therapist involved, and they can become someone that you can use to help your child, first of all, but also do some fact finding. Is there really the problems that I think there are, and are these problems caused by the other parents? So these are all just, some thoughts on this. Hope it helps. And I'm Brent Boyer. I'm an attorney here. We do divorce family law exclusively here at Adam in the state of Michigan. Thanks.